The judgment was read in tones of apathy by the Chancellor of the Galactic High Court, his voice echoing in the crystalline chamber that smelled of old blood and bureaucracy. Princess Elidra of the Violari Dominion, war tactician, noble daughter, conqueror of 24 systems, stood rigid, her violet eyes seething beneath a facade of royal composure. Her sentence: unity bonding with a human male from Terra for a minimum of 1 solar cycle. She didn't flinch, but the whispers behind her were deafening. Political exile was expected, but this was a sentence meant for cowards and failures. Her own kind murmured in delight. A Violari forced to marry a savage from the primitive blue planet. The shame was unbearable, even if her pride wouldn't allow it to show. She was escorted out, flanked by 2 executioners in obsidian armor. Her wrists were bound, not with metal, but a neural tether synced to her nervous system, a humiliating restraint usually reserved for dangerous anomalies. Her shuttle awaited. She didn't resist. She didn't speak. She would endure this farce, because she knew something the tribunal didn't. No matter where they sent her, she would never truly be under anyone's control. The hyperspace journey to Earth was quiet. Violari ships were elegant, sterile, seamless, more biological than mechanical. But this transport was Terran-built. Crude welds, loud hums, inconsistent gravitational stabilization. An insult in every vibrating bolt. She sat cross-legged in the cell, cloaked in ceremonial armor that smelled faintly of bloodroot extract. Her thoughts spiraled. Revenge, political redemption, and the strategy she would need to survive among emotional primitives. When the ship landed, she expected a diplomatic escort, cameras, something public. Instead, the hangar was silent. Her neural binds deactivated. No fanfare. Just one man standing alone near a rust-covered all-terrain transport. Tall, pale skin, eyes like polished steel scarred above the brow, a hard-set jaw, no insignia, no weapons, just presence. He didn't bow, didn't speak for several seconds. Then, flatly, "You're her?" She blinked once. "And you are the human assigned to this mating ritual?" His gaze didn't flinch. "I'm the one sentenced with you." She bristled. The idea of a union was insult enough. The notion that he considered himself punished, as though her presence were a burden, was novel. The trip to the settlement was dusty and unremarkable. She hated how his transport jostled her with every bump. The architecture was even worse. Metal slabs, exposed tubing, oxidized edges, animals roaming free. It stank of chaos. And life. The interior of their shared living quarters was painfully utilitarian. A central room with survival equipment, 2 private quarters, and a shared lavatory. No staff, no guards, just her and him. He showed her where to store her things. She ignored him. When he left the room, she memorized every possible weapon and exit route. It took 10 minutes. Dinner was silence. He ate something protein-rich with a fork. She tasted one bite of the provided rations and retched into a bin. Disgusting. He looked at her only once. "You'll want to eat. Tomorrow's a long day." She narrowed her eyes. "You presume to order me? I presume you're not used to surviving without servants." She wanted to strike him. She did not. The first week was like this. He rose before the sun, trained in the yard with weapons both archaic and precise, cooked his own food, modified tech with his bare hands. She observed, always pretending not to care, never admitting interest. He did not ask her about her people, nor did he speak unless necessary. That unnerved her more than insults would have. She tried to test him, left cryptic notes in Violari script, hoping to bait a reaction. He burned them without asking. She flooded their water system with alien bacteria to gauge his response. He neutralized the system in hours, said nothing. Cold, efficient. One night, she wandered into the common room. He was cleaning a blade, hands steady. She watched from the shadows. "You're not sleeping," he said without looking. "I don't require as much rest. But you do require revenge." That stilled her breath. She stepped closer. "You know nothing of me." He shrugged. "Enough. You're not here because of justice. You're here because your people fear what you'd do if left free. She studied him. No fear in his tone. No hatred either. Just fact. And somehow, that scraped deeper than contempt ever could. Days passed. Her disdain dulled into fascination. His strength wasn't in brute force or technology. It was in persistence, isolation, simplicity. A man made dangerous not by what he had, but what he could endure. Once, he sliced his arm open while repairing a hydraulic system. She watched in silence as he sterilized it, stapled the wound shut without a sound. No complaint. No pause. She approached, slowly. You could have asked for assistance. Didn't need any. That is inefficient. So is pride. Another wound, sharper than the last. Her people had always praised dominance, elegance, control. But this man, this human, was a creature of something more primal. Not animalistic, but elemental, like stone shaped by time and pressure. She began adjusting. Her body tuned to Earth's gravity. Her palate adapted to local food. Her mind kept drifting toward him. He never touched her, never stared. But once in the hallway, their hands brushed. Briefly, a static jolt. Or perhaps her body simply overreacted. Her pulse quickened. She told herself it was adrenaline. Another week. She started training in the yard, mimicking his movements. He noticed, said nothing, but adjusted his patterns to include her. They sparred in silence. Her speed versus his precision. He never tried to win, but she never could. One night, after a particularly brutal session, she collapsed onto the dirt. Her armor was scorched, lip bleeding. He offered her water. She slapped it away. I don't need your charity. It's not charity. It's respect. That broke something. She looked at him, and for the first time, truly saw him. Not a human, not a punishment, but a man who had survived loss, exile, perhaps even love, and still stood unshaken. That night, she didn't sleep. She studied his face while he rested. A scar across his temple, calluses on his fingers, a line of ink over his ribs, half buried under his shirt. Alien script. Her language. She approached silently and traced it with her fingers. He woke instantly, grasped her wrist, but gently. Where did you get this? From someone I respected. A long time ago. Violari don't offer respect lightly. Neither do humans. For a long moment, they simply breathed together. Not touching, not speaking, but no longer enemies. The next morning, she cooked. Poorly. He ate anyway. Said nothing, but gave a nod. Approval. That evening, she asked him a question. Do you hate me? No, but I don't trust you. And if I earn that trust, then maybe we wouldn't just be surviving. Something changed then. Not in the air, not in the stars, but in her. For the first time since the sentence was passed, she didn't think about going back. Not because she couldn't, because she wasn't sure she wanted to. The days grew longer, though Earth's sun moved no differently. Alidra found herself waking before the human did, her mind restless with memories of battles past, victories forgotten, and the man now inhabiting her present. She no longer counted the days of her sentence. That alone disturbed her. His name was Kale. She learned it not from his lips, but from a document she intercepted while examining communications protocols. He hadn't offered it because he assumed she didn't care. But now she did. Too much. He caught her staring one morning during weapon maintenance. Something on your mind? She hesitated. I know your name. I figured. Why didn't you tell me? Didn't seem important. But it was. To her, words had power. Names had gravity. She said it out loud, softly. Kale. He looked at her like he hadn't heard that sound in years. They worked together now, patrolling outer perimeters, maintaining border sensors. She no longer sought dominance in every interaction. He no longer viewed her as a temporary burden. When they spoke, it was in fragments, efficient, mutually understood. One night, during a storm, the power failed. Total blackout. She activated emergency reserves, but one circuit shorted. Sparks arced near her head. Before she could react, he was there, dragging her out of the path. They hit the floor hard, his arm around her, breathing fast. "You okay?" "Yes." "Let go." But he didn't. Not immediately. "You smell like iron and jasmine." Weird combination. She pulled away, pulse racing. His touch lingered like a brand. Later, she watched him as he slept on the couch, the storm still hammering the roof. She could have returned to her room, but didn't. She sat on the floor beside him, knees to her chest, listening to his breath. Not because she wanted to study him, but because she didn't want to feel alone. The next day, she didn't mention it. Neither did he. But something had shifted. She started talking more. About Violari traditions. About the star she missed. About her sister. Executed for refusing a strategic marriage. Kale listened. Quiet. Present. Then, one morning, while reinforcing the east barrier, Kale stepped on a pressure plate. His instincts saved him. He jumped away just as the mine detonated, but shrapnel tore into his side. Alidra didn't scream. She didn't panic. She carried him back. He was unconscious for a full cycle. She sutured his wounds, used stims, administered pain suppressants. She never left his side. Not once. When he woke, groggy, he whispered, "Didn't know you cared." She touched his forehead. "Neither did I." Days passed. He recovered slowly. She grew quieter, more introspective. Something inside her, something ancient and veiled, was rising. Emotions of Violari had long since trained out of their kind. They sat outside under the stars one night. He handed her a crude musical device. It's Terran classical. We used to listen to it before battle. Helps quiet the mind. She listened. It was chaos, emotions bleeding from strings and brass. But beneath it, she felt order, memory, pain, hope. She spoke softly. "My people removed music centuries ago. Said it weakened our focus." Kale chuckled. "Maybe that's why you lost yourselves." She didn't argue. One morning, she woke from a vivid dream. Her body pressed against his in the bunk. Not by design, but through some unconscious migration in the night. He hadn't moved away. Neither had she. She stayed still, eyes open, wondering how it had come to this. He whispered, not looking at her, "I miss silence, but not the lonely kind." She closed her eyes. "I was bred for war. But this, I was never prepared for this." The next week, a delegation arrived. Not from Earth, from Velar. An emissary and 3 armored guards. They didn't address Kale. They spoke only to her. "Your cycle ends in 8 rotations. The council wishes your return. We prepared a new post. Military governance over the Rithkar rebellion. High honor." Kale heard none of it. He was fixing an exterior antenna. But he felt it. That night, Alidra said nothing. He didn't ask, but her silence screamed. She began packing the next day. Ritualistically. Precisely. Kale stood in the doorway. "So that's it." She didn't answer. He stepped closer. "You've changed, Alidra. Don't pretend otherwise." "It doesn't matter." "It does. To me." She froze, then turned. "I was sentenced to this union. It was never real. Wasn't it?" She wanted to deny it, but couldn't. "Come with me," she said. Kale shook his head. "Your world would never accept me." "Not really." "Then I'll fight for you." "And if I asked you to stay?" She stared for a long time, then left the room. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her chest felt hollow, her body cold. She walked outside into the chill wind and looked up at the stars. Her stars. Then she heard him behind her. "I lied," he said. "I do trust you." She turned. No words, just eyes, searching, pleading. He stepped forward, slow. "I don't want you to go, but I won't stop you." Her voice broke. "Why?" "Because what we built here, it only matters if you choose it. Freely." She stepped forward, laid her forehead to his, breathing him in, and said nothing. The delegation would leave in the morning, but tonight she would stay. And somewhere in the quiet places of her warrior's heart, something fragile and beautiful stirred, and stayed awake until dawn. The stars shimmered like distant promises. Alidra stood on the landing platform at dawn, watching the Vihilari delegation prepare for departure. Their vessel pulsed with sleek authority, humming with contempt for the primitive planet beneath it. Her people didn't speak directly to Kale, didn't acknowledge him, as if he were beneath notice. But he watched in the shadows, arms crossed, eyes unreadable, waiting for her decision. She turned to the emissary. "Tell the council I decline their offer." The envoy's expression didn't change. "You will be exiled permanently." "I already was. I just didn't realize it until now." The vessel departed without further argument. They knew better than provoke a daughter of war when her voice was at steady. Kale met her at the edge of the yard. No words passed between them, but when she nodded once, he returned it, a contract made in silence. Weeks passed. The environment changed. Alidra found herself carving small comforts into their life. She built a meditation chamber out of local stone, modified their defense grid with both human and Vihilari tech, and began training locals in basic survival. Kale watched it all, quietly adapting. He wasn't a man who needed much, but he noticed everything. When she replaced the ration system with hydroponics, he only said, "Smells less like despair now." They laughed more. Quiet, brief moments. Laughter wasn't a weakness anymore. It was survival. Then the distress call came. A Terran outpost, 200 kilometers east, had gone silent. Kale didn't hesitate. Neither did she. They packed light, took only what was necessary. The journey was brutal. Harsh winds, unstable terrain, residual radiation zones. They traveled by rover, then by foot. The silence between them now spoke of trust, not tension. The outpost had been attacked, not by raiders, by something older, darker. A leader found the first body near the communications array, drained, eyes wide, no visible wounds. Kale scanned the perimeter. No tracks in or out, no signs of breach. They moved room to room. No survivors, no signs of struggle, just silence and cold. Then she saw the markings, etched into the metal walls. Ancient Vihilari glyphs, pre-imperial, forgotten by most, but not by her. Kale read her reaction. "You recognize it?" She nodded. "It's a name. Aarketh. It was purged from our records millennia ago. Forbidden knowledge." Kale knelt near the mark. "What is it?" She spoke slowly. "A living weapon, created by our ancestors. Biotech, not machine. Sentient. It was too effective. It devoured its masters. So they locked it away." He rose. "It's not locked anymore. They set traps, built sensors, recalled every lesson in asymmetric warfare." Kale was pragmatic. Alidra was surgical. Together, they laid a web of defenses around the camp. But they knew it wouldn't be enough. On the second night, it came, not with sound, but absence. No wind, no static, just void. The shadows shifted. Something massive moved through the dark, invisible to radar, but not to instinct. Kale fired first. Plasma rounds. Then a concussion grenade. The creature didn't fall, didn't scream, just shimmered and phased. Alidra charged. Blade drawn, energy humming. Her strike landed. Brief contact, slicing through some kind of membrane. A hiss echoed. Then pain, searing mental, psychic. Kale pulled her back, laid suppressive fire. Fall back. They retreated to the fallback point. Rerouted power from the reactor. Set a fusion core to overload. "This is suicide," he said. "It's Vihilari science. Suicidal is how we test results." The explosion leveled the valley. In the aftermath, Alidra crawled from the rubble, coughing, bleeding, half-blind. Kale emerged seconds later, dragging her upright. His voice was rough. "That better have worked. It would have if it was just one." Silhouettes moved in the distance. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Alidra's voice shook. "They've awakened more." Kale pulled her behind cover. "Then we call for help. Earth has to respond." She shook her head. They won't. Not in time. And Veeler won't acknowledge the threat. We're alone. Then we make them listen. They limped back to the outpost, repaired the transmitter, broadcasted a warning on every frequency, in every language. Attention all sectors. Unknown hostile bioforms detected. Immediate threat to all carbon-based life. Coordinates attached. Do not engage without high-yield support. Then silence. But something answered. A distorted signal. Deep Vihilary dialect. Not a person. A machine. She paled. It's responding to the glyph. It thinks we're allies. Kale looked at her. Can you use that? She hesitated, then nodded. Maybe. They lured the creatures in with false signals, redirected them toward a canyon system. There, Kale and Elidra collapsed the cliffs with explosives, trapping the bulk. But not all. 3 broke through. 1 cornered Kale in the ravine. Elidra didn't think, didn't plan, just moved. Her blade sang, cut through tendrils. She reached him as the last creature lunged, and took the blow meant for him. Silence. Kale fired. Again, until it stopped moving. He dropped beside her, blood on her lips. No, he whispered. No, no, no. She smiled faintly. Now we're even. Stay with me. Always. But her breathing slowed. Eyes dimmed. Then, from the wreckage, light. The glyphs pulsed. Energy flowed into her wounds. Regeneration. Unauthorized. Ancient tech recognizing a worthy host. She gasped. Heart surged. Life returned. Kale held her tightly. You idiot. I learned from the best. Weeks later, back at their home, the stars seemed closer. They sent data to both Earth and Veeler. Proof of the threat. Evidence of victory. A warning and a challenge. And they waited, together, not as prisoners, but as partners, warriors, and maybe, just maybe more than that,